So before we begin today, we want to acknowledge that the museum recognizes and respects that the Pemberton Museum operates within the traditional, unceded territory of the Lil'wat and Sht'át'imc nations. We also acknowledge that the museum holds Indigenous items of cultural significance to local First Nations, and since 2018, we've begun repatriation of these items. Welcome to Pemberton Tales, and thank you so much for coming today. This is our first public program since the end of 2019. My name is Nikki Madigan, and I'm the curator at the museum. This program is a replacement for our signature program, Tea and Tales, because we felt that serving homemade baked goods and beverages during a pandemic maybe wouldn't be appropriate. And we also believed our presenters, who are typically elders, might not be ready to come out and participate in a public program. So we aimed for a hybrid approach, so the program could be viewed online or in person at the site, because we had no idea what our occupancy restrictions were going to be. So here we are, and we're really glad that you came. The theme of this year's program is an exploration of the book, Pemberton, History of a Settlement, which I have over there. It was written by Francis Decker, Margaret Faubourg, and Mary Ronan. The book was written over 40 years ago, but remains a standard resource for local residents who want to explore the rich local history of the area. We also acknowledge that the book includes terminology, concepts, and research that can be considered outdated in modern times. However, we believe it still provides a solid overview of the history of settlement in the area over the last 163 years, and it's still an educational resource. The book outlines the themes of those who were here first, the Lil'wat and Sht'át'imc nations, the gold rush, and the lives of early settlers. It was begun as a project by the Pemberton Women's Institute, who began collecting examples of life in the early days as part of BC Centennial Project in 1958. They formed a committee, the Pemberton Pioneer Women's Committee, and began the enormous task of collecting stories and recollections from those who'd arrived at the turn of the century before those stories were lost to time. The book also includes 2 chapters about local First Nations, including a chapter titled By and About, which is a collection of stories contributed by local Indigenous people. In the introduction to the book, the authors write, this history also touches on the Lil'wat of Mount Currie, because many names and events indicate that since Europeans first entered the region, they have mixed with the native people. But the Lil'wat should really be writing their own history, as indeed they've started to do. This statement is reflective of their sensibilities at the time that it was not appropriate for settlers to write that history. So the book does not delve into the inequities and challenges First Nations people faced through the waves of settlement that began in 1858. But we do plan to explore this theme in the last program on August 24th. Just a little bit about the authors. Margaret Faubourg and Francis Decker did a lion's share of the research. Margaret was a much-loved local school teacher, and with her husband Slim, was integral to the formation of the Howe Sound School Board and the establishment of local public schools. Francis Decker was a settler who was deeply involved in the local Women's Institute and their lobbying efforts to improve the lives of early settlers, to get services into town like health care, electricity, and telephone. The authors conducted research through BC archives to document the earliest days of settlement during the gold rush. This collection of notes and correspondence make up a significant portion of the museum's archive holdings. Molly Ronan, who married a Pemberton settler, contributed the later portion of the book with Faubourg and helped with research, writing, and proofreading. Eventually, Gordon R. Elliott, a professor of literature with UBC, was brought into the project to finalize the first draft of the book. Now, Gordon's connection to the area was deep, as his father, Ray Elliott, was a packer on the Pemberton Trail, and his mother was Margaret Malish, an early teacher in the area at the Pemberton Meadows one-room school. The Pemberton Pioneer Committee published the book in 1977, and it received accolades from the BC Historical Federation and strong reviews throughout BC and beyond. It continues to be listed in many bibliographies to this day and is a resource of early BC history. We sell the book at the museum for $20, and we can ship it pretty much anywhere in Canada for about $10. We decided to use this book as the source of inspiration for our program this year. We prepared 3,000 word readings from sections of the book, and then we invited some of our museum members in to do a reading, which we filmed. Our staff then put the reading together with some archival images, because we have thousands of those, and we wanted to make the stories come alive. So we hope you enjoy this format. Today we have Louise McDonald reading from the book about the first Pemberton and the gold rush. And following the video, we can have a little question and answer session, and so feel free to think of things you want to ask at the end. So thank you very much.